Well, hello guys, I am Zell, and it's Wednesday, so it's time for another Drinkin and Thinkin. Yeah, I know, we don't hit them every Wednesday, but today you've got 9 seconds to get your drink of choice, and I'll be right back with you. Alright guys, today we're talking warranty. Specifically because of Spyderco and their recent changes, but we'll get into that here in a minute. First, let's talk about general knife warranty and why it is the way it is. In general, with almost everyone on the table here, they tell you not to take the knife apart. Now, they do that for a reason, and it's a legitimate reason in my opinion. The reason is not everyone is capable of taking the knife apart and getting it back together right. You know, not everyone's like me or you. You know, they weren't taking Briggs and Stratton apart at 5 years old so they can get it rebuilt for their mini bike. So not everyone knows how to do this stuff. And that's okay. Because I know some of you don't believe this, but there are people that never touched a screwdriver till they were in their 20s or maybe never did. And they don't want those people attempting to take a knife apart as their first project and getting it all apart and not knowing how to get it back together. You know, they need to start on something a little smaller, a little simpler, and work their way up. And if you're in that position, you know, watch some of the disassembly videos that I do, and I try to make them as straightforward as possible. And there are other disassembly videos out there. I will caution you, some of them, the people that are doing them, make the disassembly look way harder than it really is. Or way more, I don't know, there's some guys doing it that really fumble through it, and that, so just, even though I fumble sometimes, do try to pay attention to what's going on whenever you're watching those disassembly videos, and try to do better than we do as presenters. That's what I'm trying to get to. Anyhow, that's why the warranties say don't take the knife apart. And you know, it's kind of an interesting thing. You've got Kershaw and ZT. They'll send you almost any part on the knife except for the scales and the blade. And all you got to do is fill out this little web form and they'll send it to you to repair your knife. And then in their warranty, they say don't take it apart. So, like I said, it is just to protect them from people that don't know what they're doing. And if you really don't know what you're doing, don't take it apart. Send it in for service. Do the smart thing. You know, I don't try to reprogram... Okay, I started to say my motorcycle, but I did reprogram my motorcycle. I don't try to reprogram my truck. Even though I could look at the software and I could probably figure it out, I don't try to do it, because if I make a mislick or a wrong number somewhere in one of those tables, well, I have possibly blown the motor up in the truck, and it's all my fault. If I leave it the way that General Motors planned for it to be, or I take it to a professional shop where they do the reprogramming, then I take that burden off of myself. And that's what it's all about here. You know, the only knife company I'm aware of that will take a box of parts and reassemble it for you is Buck Knives. And don't hold me to that one. I haven't read through their warranty information lately or spoke to their customer service in a long time. But in the past, you could literally take a Buck apart, not be able to get it back together, and send Buck a box of parts. They'd reassemble the knife for you, and yes, they would charge you a little bit, and send it back to you. Nobody else that I'm aware of does that. But the thing is, they want to make warranty work for their own people as easy as possible, and if they have a knife put together in the proper configuration as it came from the factory, it's easier for them to determine if there is a major problem, a minor fixable problem, or whatever, instead of getting a box of parts and having to put it back together to figure out what the problem is. So that's why they do that. And some knife companies use Loctite. In fact, we prefer that most knife companies would use some blue Loctite. One more time on the blue Loctite. Blue is medium thread locker. Blue you can normally get loose with just your driver, just a Torx driver or Allen key or whatever you have to use for the knife. Red Loctite, that's like super glue for knives. You can't get that stuff apart without applying a tremendous amount of heat and generally quite a bit of torque to go along with that heat. I have been witness to people trying to get large nuts off of things that were 3 or 4 inches across and have cheater bars on wrenches that were 10 feet long because somebody put some red Loctite on that big old nut. And it's a nasty, dangerous situation with the big cheater bar, and they've got heat going and they've got penetrating oil going. It's just dangerous. So red Loctite is not for knives, and it's not for most things. There are a few places where red Loctite is necessary, but for the most part, don't use it. Look for medium thread locker whenever you're looking for your thread locking compound. And it may not always be blue. There are other colors of it, but it will always say medium thread locker. And speaking of the other colors, that's something that you'll run into whenever a company has screws that they put in a knife. And I don't have the steel will knife up here, but steel will uses some pre-Loctited screws. And what that means is whenever the screws were going down the production line, they got dipped in some Loctite or wrapped in some Loctite or something. And that stuff is generally not blue. The medium thread locker there can come in a variety of colors, in fact any color really, but normally you see it in an off-white, a gray, or kind of a sea green. And those are all medium thread lockers. So if you see that in a knife, don't freak out. It's just it's an industrial medium thread locker. So if you see that in a future Spyderco, don't freak out. That's just they've ordered the screws that way. So anyhow, let's talk about what Spyderco has done. They retracted a bunch of their warranty and rewrote it. And hang on, I'm going to need I'm excited about this one. In the past, Spyderco used red Loctite, and they said, do not take our knife apart. In fact, I had a Paramilitary 2 stolen from me, and it was returned a few weeks later. Don't need to get into why and how, but it came back to me, and whomever had it thought they wanted to take it apart, and they couldn't get it apart because of the red Loctite, but they did booger up all of the hardware. So I called Spyderco, and I had to explain to them the situation before they would send me parts, and they kept reiterating you weren't supposed to take the knife apart. And I said, well, I didn't take it apart. Some thief took it and took it apart, or tried to take it apart, and I just need the screws so I can get it back together. I've already been able to successfully get the screws out of the knife, and I just need a screw set so I can put it back together and have it look right. And they did send me the screws, but I heard the you're not supposed to take it apart thing, I don't know, a half a dozen times in the 5-minute conversation. But they have retracted that. They are no longer going to penalize you for taking the knife apart. They say if you can get it back together, it's okay. And all these other knives with their warranties that say don't take it apart, that's what that has always meant. It has always meant if you can get the knife apart and put it back together the way it's supposed to be, that's okay. Don't send us a box of parts. Don't send us a jacked up knife. And that's what it really meant. And now Spyderco is going even further. They're saying, hey guys, it's okay if you take the knife apart as long as you can get it back together the way it's supposed to be. So they're being really good about this. Now, they do say that if you can't get it back together the way it's supposed to be, don't send it to us. We warned you. And that's okay too. So, if you're looking at taking knives apart and putting them back together and that's the first mechanical thing you've ever taken apart, don't start with a Spyderco. Go get you a $5 Walmart knife, or was it $3.87, or some cheap Kershaws or Crickets or something. Don't try to take the Ganzos apart. They have some problems with soft hardware. But anyhow, that's the big thing that has changed with Spyderco, and that's beautiful. It's awesome. The second thing that changed with Spyderco is they are going to quit using red Loctite. They have acknowledged that the community doesn't want it. They've acknowledged that the community wants to be able to service their knives. And they are going to cease using red Loctite And if I remember the thing I read right from Spyderco, they said that you're going to see a few more knives here and there with red Loctite as they change the practices from factory to factory. But very soon there will be no more red Loctite, and that's permanent thread locker, in a Spyderco knife. And that is a beautiful thing, my friends. Beautiful. So, now we have this mess of knives on the table. Now, we can take the knives away that don't freak out if you take them apart. And there's Chloe. I'm not sure what she's found over there, but she's not too happy about it. Is that squirrel taunting you again, Chloe? So let's get them all back down here. Alright, so there we go. We have removed all of the knives that tell you it's okay to take it apart. Now that leaves us our Kershaws, our CRKTs, our Bokers, and there's others out there. But there are no longer any Spydercos in the bunch. Spyderco has elevated themselves above the general production knife by changing that warranty, and that is a beautiful thing, friends and neighbors. Oh my God, is it beautiful. Because Spyderco makes some great knives, and they are generally well machined. Their tolerances are good, and you want to be able to take that knife apart, get the gunk out of it, put it back together, and between the red Loctite and the warranty, many people won't take a Spyderco apart, and I don't blame them. But no longer. You can take it apart as long as you can put it back together. And really, guys, the ones that are left on the table, they may say don't take it apart in their warranty statement, but as long as you can get it back together the right way, all of these companies are also going to support you. So what Spyderco has really done is they've thrown a bone to the community, and they put themselves in line with most everyone else that has a production knife. And one more thing before we take off, and we'll get some other knives back out here because, well, hey, eye candy, you know. And check that one out. We got the biohazard emblems on that guy. I thought that was kind of neat whenever I picked up the knife. And some other things to look at. We got this Polestar from Nick, and this guy is interesting. I will get into the surface treatment they gave these handles whenever we do the review. Just know it's pretty darn good. And we got a Strider. Strider has quit production, but Nick has allowed us, this is also his knife, a chance to look at this, and a front flipper. I've never messed with one of these, as you can tell, but this is a neat concept, and this little Boker is just a laser cutter. Oh my goodness. And what the heck would you call this thing? Every time I see it, I think about, and I can't place it. Maybe you guys can help me. It looks like some kind of starship from some movie, and I just can't place it. It also looks like a warship from something too. But anyhow, if you guys have any ideas, put it in the comments. Anyhow, the last thing we've got to talk about is the name of this series. We started this series, or whenever the concept was made, and I started gathering up the stuff to do this series, the idea was it was going to be a series recorded late in the evening. We'd all kick back, have a drink, and talk about some stuff. Well, some things changed in my life, and that kicking back in the evening thing, well, it turned into being up early in the morning. So, as you've seen, most of the time we've got coffee. So, Drinkin and Thinkin, one, it doesn't fit as well as it should. Secondly, for the health of the channel and all those things that YouTube does, we really need to get a different name for this show. Now, I do this show for you guys. If you want this show to continue to be Drinkin and Thinkin, well, it'll continue to be Drinkin and Thinkin, YouTube be damned. But if you would like it to, if you think we might get wider appeal out of it, get some other people involved by taking the drinking stigma off of the show, then by all means, please leave your ideas in the comments. Somebody comes up with a great idea, well, there may be a lot of great ideas, but if one of you guys comes up with an idea that I picked to use as the name of the show, I'll send you a little prize pack, and we'll have some kind of little name changing thing, and move along with the show. The show's format probably won't change much with the name change, because this is basically my freeform thing to talk with you guys about whatever's going on in the industry, or whatever may just happen to be going on with the channel, or me, or the dogs, or whatever. We may even talk about Susie's channel. What do you guys think about nail polish? Anybody got anybody interested in that? All right, I get it. All you use nail polish for is to mark the front sight on your blacked out sight pistols, and probably for protectant if you're doing acid washing. But she does some cool stuff over at Susie Nails It if your wives or whomever, girlfriends, are interested in it. Anyhow, I really appreciate you stopping by. Leave your ideas for a name down in the comments, because we may need to change the name up here. And you guys have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.